Hello, YouTube. Well, it's the last day of 2023. How are you doing? Crazy, right? You probably hear some fireworks going off in the background. I mean, 'tis the season, right? So, chilly evening here in southwest Arizona. About 57 degrees last time I checked. Probably going to drop down to the 40s somewhere. That's what we call winter around here. I know it's not much by winter standards as they are. Can't imagine what it's like up there in the Dakotas or in Minnesota. That's why I live here, where I live here in Yuma. And let me see what we got. I have some notes here just to kind of, one thing I often think about this time of year is a song by the Counting Crows, A Long December, and lyrics. A long December, and I'm starting to believe maybe this year will be better than the last. Well, don't we all? Even when you had a good year, I mean, you got to wish for an even better year, right? And right now, I don't see how the economy, at the macro picture, could be much better, right? I mean, stock market is at an all-time high. Unemployment is at an all-time low. Mortgage interest rates are now under 6% again. And my money in the bank is earning me about 5%. So, but on the other hand, personal debt is at an all-time high. And according to several consumer surveys, more of us than ever are living paycheck to paycheck. So how do you jive those two pictures? Well, one's at the macro level and one's down here at the micro level where we live our lives, and we've just come out of a couple of years of sustained high inflation, right? It was tough. I mean, even now I'm shocked when I go to the store and I don't buy a lot of groceries. I mean, I live by myself, and the only one other than me is who eats out of my pantry and refrigerator is the woman who comes in and cleans my house a couple of days a week, and she helps herself to whatever it is to make herself lunch or snacks or whatever. But anyway, so I guess the thing is that it's just the same old story, right? The rich are getting richer, which is, obviously the truth. And meanwhile, the middle class is getting squeezed. Boy, right? On a personal level, my weight has held steady over the past year. Actually, I've been around 165. Probably since I got out of the Army. When I finished boot camp, I was 155 pounds, but that was after 10 weeks of working out for 10 hours a day and running before breakfast and running before dinner, and after boot camp and advanced individual training. And so that's probably the lightest I've ever been, but 10 pounds over all those years later, it's not bad, right? And I'm still driving my old Nissan crew cab pickup that I bought new in 2012. So it's getting on. It's getting on in age. Got like 100 and not quite 140,000 miles on it, which is, and it still gets me everywhere I go. And the thought of dropping 50 grand on a gas guzzling SUV just does not appeal to me. So I think I'm going to hang with my Nissan for the foreseeable future. I did this year have to actually spend some money on it, but yeah, the older things get. But the couple of grand I dropped, it's a lot less than just the down payment on a car would be, right? Of course, I wouldn't put a down payment, but adult beverage. But anyway, and the other sort of good news over the past year is that I remain debt-free. I mean, nothing, no school loan, no credit card, none of the typical stuff, not even a mortgage on either of my houses. I have 2 houses, one in Arizona and one in Mexico. And I'm thinking of selling my house in Arizona and moving full-time to my house in Mexico. But whenever I consider that, even though I'm leaving a lot of money on the table. I mean, I could do that anyway. I could move to Mexico and then just rent out my house. But I sold my last 2 rental income properties back in November of 2021, after a string of 3 years of selling a couple of properties a year. But every time I think about selling this house, it's almost like I'm considering cutting down a money tree. So why do I say that? Well, I mean, it's my house, my paid-off house in Arizona. It's like a gold mine. My passive income. I haven't had a job in 15 years almost, and all my income is passive. And 2 of the streams you'd probably recognize. You might even have one or both, but the big one. Well, no, it's not even the big. Well, yeah, it's still a big one. The big one is my pension income. Firecrackers love that, don't they? Anyway, my big one is my pension income, and my other is my income on money in the bank and in cash equivalents, which is right now averaging about 5%, which is great because for years, back when interest rates, and you all remember probably when interest rates were almost 0, that money was sitting there. Luckily back then, a lot of that, my cash was in equity in my rental properties, because like I said, I sold the last ones in 21, and the end of 21 rates were just starting to creep up, and before that most of my money was in rental property in equity. And as I sold my properties, my cash started climbing, and I am loath to rent my house out. For one thing, it's my home. I love this place, and that's one of the reasons I am not inclined to sell. Really, the costliest mistakes I've ever made in my life is selling real estate that I have owned. I mean, we go all the way back to 1980 when I bought my first piece of rental property, right? $125,000, 8 blocks from the beach in San Diego, California, and it was not just a big house. It was also a big lot with a 2-car garage detached with a 1-bedroom apartment over that garage. And if I still own that property today, I could have done nothing else, and that house has to be worth today. It no longer exists. The people I sold it to actually tore down the house, tore down the garage, and of course the apartment came down with it and put 4 condos on it, and that's what's known as highest and best use. And I know that selling this house, I will suffer the same outcome. I mean, I only paid $172,000 for this house, but that was. It's going on. This will be the 10th year. In November of 2024, I will have had this house for 10 years. But today, it's worth $500,000 or so, give or take, right? But 500,000 is a nice round number. But getting back to my passive income, my house provides me 2 streams of passive income. One you're probably familiar with, and you might even have this income stream as well, unless you rent, and that is appreciation. Last year was crazy. The year before that was crazy in terms of appreciation. Last year, my house, in this 2023, my house probably appreciated 20%. The year before that, probably 20%. There's no way that level of appreciation can keep going, or who's going to be able to afford a home? But I feel fairly confident that in another 10 years or less, this house will be worth $1 million. It reminds me, my brother who passed away, not young, but too soon. It's my older brother. He was a barber by trade all of his working life. And I doubt that he ever made more than $25,000 a year as a barber. But when he passed away, he left an estate of just about $10 million. And it was all in San Diego real estate. And he had started investing in real estate almost by accident. See, what happened is he had had a health issue, and afterwards he couldn't go back to work where he was. So he looked for a place to rent, and he found a place, and I helped him fit it out as a barber shop. Just 2 chairs, very small, very small. It was probably 400 square foot, maybe less, maybe 350. Just enough room for 2 chairs, 2 sinks, and a couple of chairs against the far wall for customers to wait in. And it just so happened that barber shop was next to a real estate office. And so one of the real estate agents came over, got his haircut, and started talking to him and convinced him to buy a duplex in the same neighborhood, the Claremont neighborhood in San Diego. I mean, if he had gone back to work where he had been, that never would have happened. I mean, he would have just kept cutting hair and probably, died without much to his name. But this guy, he was a heck of a salesman, and he sold my brother. And what really sold my brother, when he says, look, we can get you in using your Veterans Administration loan, no money down, the house is only $12,000, your payments will be, $150, but you can rent one side out for $200-300, and you can live in the other side free and save the difference. And that got my brother's attention, right? Jim liked the idea of that, so he bought one. And after about a year, he realized, the guy was not feeding him a crock. So he saved money. He was a frugal guy, and he lived in that apartment and saved, one side of the duplex, saved money, and he was able to save enough for a second duplex, and the next year a third duplex, and so on until you know, by the time he passed away, he had $10 million worth of real estate, and who knows how much in the bank. I wasn't involved in settling his estate, but anyway, he and I had a conversation after he had been buying property and cashing in rent checks for 10 years, maybe 15 years. I remember the first time we had it. I went into his barbershop, which, everyone did. Everyone knew him, and everyone would go in there and talk about San Diego real estate, which was a big subject of discussion the whole time I knew him. And other realtors came and get their hair cut there just to listen to what he had to say. And he became something of a guru, although he was modest right up to the end. Drove an old car, ate at the Jack in the Box that was 1 block away every day for breakfast and lunch. And I had this discussion with him. I said, Jack's my other brother, Jim. I said, you need to sell. You need to cash out because, these prices are crazy. A duplex is worth $40,000. $40,000 now. There's no way it'll ever be worth more. And I remember his answer to this day. He said, look, would you rather live in San Diego or Manhattan? And I said, well, I don't know anything about Manhattan, but I like living in San Diego. And he said, right. And he said, a condominium, an apartment in a big high-rise goes for $1 million in Manhattan. And if you'd rather live in San Diego than in Manhattan, what do you think real estate prices are going to be doing here? And that sort of stopped me in my tracks, and I said, damn, here I am with 5 degrees, graduate degree in business, and my brother is smarter than me. I may be better educated, but he's smarter, and he's able to see where things are going. He had a vision. And he just kept slowly but surely investing a little bit here, a little bit there, and picking up a duplex. Duplexes were his favorite. He finally branched out a little bit, but so he only sold properties one time when he had another health crisis, and he was loath to do it. I've had, 10, 15 properties. Well, just in personal residences, I've had 6, I think, something like that. But anyway, and then there's rentals. But I was really sort of cavalier about the whole buy and hold thing. I was just always wanted to get my equity out and bank the check. And it was the biggest mistake I ever made. Financial. I made bigger mistakes in other areas of my life. But in terms of financial, it was a mistake because if I would have just held on to those properties. Look, I'm okay financially. I cannot complain. I've been blessed and I'm grateful, and I express my gratitude every day for my financial position. But if I would have held everything I bought and sold, every piece of real estate, my net worth now would be close to my brother's. Something like that. But if I had not learned my lesson by now, I don't know why I'm even considering selling this house. But again, the reason is I do not want to be a landlord. I was a landlord from, probably for 20 years in my life. And I know I'm leaving money on the table, but $2,500 a month would change it would have no impact on my life. It would just go straight to the bank. I mean, just my pension alone is, 4 times my annual cost of living. So, and I don't see any big upgrades to my lifestyle. I guess I could go out and buy a $1 million house or something, but that's not going to happen. You know, I'm just going to go to Mexico and live in my place down there and count my chickens. Love them chickens. But anyway, so I got those two sort of run-of-the-mill income streams, 2 legs of the 3-legged retirement stool. But my house is providing me 2 streams of additional income, at least 2 streams, right? For one, there's a standard, and like I said, if you own a house, you're also your house is also appreciating. But most people don't usually include their personal residence on their net worth statement. Whoops, sorry. But and the reason is, and it's a good reason for that. It's because that if you sold the house, you would have to have someplace else to live. But most people don't have 2 houses, so that's why you hear it said that some people are house cash poor but house rich. They're sort of, you know. Again, if I moved out of this house, I would have to. If I sold this house, what would I do with the money? Well, if I wanted to stay in the United States, or if I wanted to stay here in Arizona, I'd have to buy another house. And right now, if I bought this exact house, it would cost me $500,000. So the only way it would make sense, or the only way I'd actually profit, is if I downsized. The fact of the matter is, I like living in a big house. I like having a room for my studio. I like having a TV room. I like, you know, having my library. So no, I don't. But anyway, my house is worth about $500,000. I bought it 10 years ago for like $172 after closing costs and everything. It was a VA loan, no money down. They put all the closing costs into the loan, and it came to $177,000. And now it's worth about, like I said, $500,000. And so, like I don't think appreciation is going to continue at 20%, because my house may have a book value of $500,000, and another 10 years it'll probably be worth $1 million. But who is going to be able to afford them? You know, obviously wages for the middle class have not kept up with the inflation in housing prices. That's why more and more people are finding themselves priced out of the real estate market and failing to get on the real estate ladder. Anyway, so let's say it just goes up 10% this year. So but in the last year, when it did go up 20% or so, my house, I don't even want to guess how much it went up, but let's say it goes up 10%. This way I've got a basis. $500,000, it's going to go up $50,000, right? So, but if you've only got one house, you really can't count that chicken before it hatches, right? No. But I've got 2 houses, and that is the secret. I could sell this house and move to my other house, which is also paid off, and actually reap a profit. It would be just like selling a rental property. So yeah, in the next year, I think it'll go up in value $50,000. And then if I want it, but here's another income stream that often goes unaccounted for, and that is free rent. I live in this house, not really for free. I mean, I pay property taxes and insurance, and I do have some repairs, and I've done some remodeling occasionally, nothing drastic. But here's the thing. if I were to rent this house, if I didn't own this house and I were renting it, it would be at least $2,500 a month. It's a big house, lots of rooms, lots of space. It's on a double lot, and so this house is paying me $30,000 a year to live in it. Those are costs that I avoid. And it's like money, although it doesn't come into my wallet, it doesn't go out either. Like I said, it would go out. If I were renting this house, every month I'd have to be paying $2,500. But because I own it, I live here for free, other than those expenses I mentioned, but there's no way. So if you add those two streams up, right, $30,000 and $50,000, that's $80,000. My house has been paying me and will pay me in the coming year. And there's no way I'm going to spend $80,000. You know, my property taxes are $2,000 a year, and my insurance is like $900. And you know, let's say I have a couple of grand, so I may spend $4,000. You know, the cost of living here, which is like $350 a month for a house that would rent for $2,500. So anyway, my house is making me like $80,000 a year. So why in the world would I sell it? Obviously, the prudent thing to do, which would make me even more money, is rent it out, because then I could depreciate it. Unfortunately, I could only depreciate the basis, which is at $177,000. But that would be an additional revenue stream. So I would get appreciation, and appreciation, but I would no longer get the imputed income of the house dividend of free rent. And so, yeah. So I don't know what the year will bring. I'm inclined to sell, but if I do sell, it'll be in spite of the lessons the costly financial lessons I have learned, that real estate is like the stock market in the sense that you need to buy and hold, and that's where the real profit is to be made. Not complicated. That's the beauty of buy and hold, is it's not complicated. But anyway, okay, I'll let you know if I sell or not. I mean, I tell you, I'm just loath to be a landlord, but maybe I'll just hire a property manager or something. I'm not sure, but anyway, Happy New Year, you know, and for those of you who achieved financial independence or are saving to do so, or saving for retirement or in retirement and counting on the stock market to keep paying the bills, many happy returns.